You're most welcome to this webinar. The webinar we are having today is to celebrate RSH Ethiopian Hub, and it's coming to you from Safeguarding Resource and Support Hub. My name is Oge Chukwudozie, the Global Safeguarding Advisor for RSH. In today's webinar, we are celebrating the journey and achievements of Ethiopian Hub. As the first national hub on RSH, the Ethiopian Hub was the pioneer. It piloted RSH approaches and activities to safeguarding strengthening that has become central to the overall approach. It includes areas such as contextualization, mentorship, and community building. It led the way so that all the other national hubs could follow. And after almost 3 years, the time has come to reflect and consider what happens next. We have 3 speakers who will talk us through this webinar. Our first speaker and panelist is Sosena Lemma, and she will share about the milestones achieved by Ethiopian Hub. Sosena has more than 20 years of experience of working in the development sector in Ethiopia. She has built her experience and expertise as a leader in capacity development for civil society organizations across a range of disciplines, including program management, gender-based violence, and safeguarding. She is currently the RSH Regional Representative for Africa. Our second panelist is Alix Clark. Alix will share about Ethiopian Hub's journey, its major learnings, and the proudest achievements. Alix is a senior technical specialist at SD Direct, specializing in gender equality and social inclusion, monitoring, evaluation, and learning approaches. Since 2020, she has also been the Joint Evidence Lead on RSH program, leading program monitoring and learning, and co-leading the development and learning resources, MEL, including a Safe MEL module in the RSH learning course and Safe MEL guidance notes. Alix has a BSc in economics and an MSc in development economics, and previous experience working with non-governmental organizations. Our third speaker is Shiferaw. Michael is the head of Global Support Units at Johanniter International Assistance and a member of Ethiopia National Expert Board. Michael will share about the impact of RSH in Ethiopia and what more there is to do. Now, at this point, I want to hand over to Sosena, our first panelist.
We cannot share you everything, but we identify some milestones for the last 3 years journey. So I will start from the first activity. Next, please. Next slide. Before we start any activity, the Ethiopia Hub conducted country assessments. The assessment helped us to gather materials, informations, and also helped us to understand the national safeguarding context, like the legal, policy, practice, and culture. Also, Ethiopia ratified and domesticated many international and legal conventions to the rights and protection of adults. There is no single consolidation law on the gender-based violence and also violence against women and children. With regard to labor law, until recent time, sexual harassment, especially in the workplace, was not recognized as a legal institution. And our effort also to identify publicly accessed resources, research and materials were not that much successful. We also try to identify priorities and need regarding to safeguarding resource and support. We also identified a number of networks and activities, actors related to safeguarding. So there was not much, especially who are providing support or technical support for civil society organization in safeguarding. During that time, we found one of the biggest programs, civil society program, CSSP. So during that time, 120 civil society organizations were supported. Otherwise, international organizations and also UN were supporting their partners only. So the knowledge gap also was like hugely identified. For data collection, primarily we used desk review supplemented by a small number of key informants interview, because COVID didn't allow us to gather information through focus group discussion. The country assessment will be found on our website. I cannot go through for the interest of time, but it informed our work plan activities for Ethiopia Hub. RSH strategy or research strategy also identified by or guided by or informed by this country assessment. Next, please. Then at the beginning of our hub also, we created a national expert board. The national expert board support us to create awareness. It's like a board or an expert board, as the name indicates. So it comprises 8 individuals. They are coming from different discipline and also background, from government, survivor-centered organization, person with disability organizations, and also international organizations, local civil society organizations. So we try to get an advice on the program strategy and methods. And also the advice are on equitable stakeholder engagement, especially how to engage survivors and also person with disability. Next, please. Our online hub launched in June 2020. So the Ethiopia hub had 4 translated language in addition to English. Amharic, Afan Oromo, Tigrinya, and Somali were selected based on the discussion we had with our language experts, Clear Global, and also we also identified some discussion, so the need through some discussion and consultation. So we piloted the RSH Ethiopia approach, so it also informed the other hub countries design, and also it's also a pioneer or a pilot. So I will invite Alix on this one to give you some evidence.
Thank you. And the online hub for us, just go back one slide, was kind of the biggest vehicle we used to share our products, the knowledge, and really invite people into some of the conversation to get them used to both the Global Safeguarding Hub, but also the Ethiopia Hub. So during its kind of lifetime, as it were, in that first phase, then the Ethiopia Hub reached 13,985 people. And those are individual users, and 62% of those were based in Ethiopia, coming to the website and using the website, accessing resources, understanding when webinars were happening. Of those, 25% were return users. So they were people that were coming back, they weren't just coming once, they were coming back twice, 3, 4 times to use some of the resources. So it's really kind of showed us that this was a great way to get to vehicle to kind of share some of the RSH knowledge. Some lessons around how the hub works. We saw that some of the promotions to the launch of our e-learning, the circulation of newsletters really drove people to the hub as well. So we could see how our communications then showed and brought people to our online hub. Over to you, Sosi.
Yeah, next slide, please. Starting from the country assessment, COVID was a challenge, and also it gives us some opportunity to adjust our virtual life, because civil society organization and different professionals were using the online or the virtual model. So that helped us also, since it's an online hub, we try to reach different individuals, and we discussed on the reach and also connectivity. Our e-learning training also developed to use online and also offline. The e-learning is a 5 module, so it takes you through the safeguarding from the beginning to until the monitoring and evaluation. So it was also provided by Amharic and English. Then the mentoring, especially the first mentorship training, also carried out online. I'll come that on the next slides. Next, please. We engage a number of stakeholders during the country assessment. We identified a range of actors which we can work with. So by identifying these networks and also actors, we start to engage to be as a key stakeholders. For example, the PSA network, Protection of Sexual Exploitation and Abuse Network. We try to promote our resources through these networks. Mainly international organizations are a member of this PSA network, and also recently the local civil society organization also joined. 6 of our users also supported to take part online PSA network training. And also our national associate was sitting in one of the task force. So they were a good entry point to local civil society organization as well as international organization. We work also with the newly established, during that time it was new, the Ethiopian Civil Society Council, which a council for every civil society organization in Ethiopia, both international and national. So through in their code of conduct for civil society organization, safeguarding is one of the elements included, or one of the code of conduct, or one of the articles. So that also helped us to integrate the safeguarding issue with civil society organization. Next, please. We delivered a mentorship program in 2 rounds. Each round had 6 months duration. The first one is, as I mentioned earlier, it was during COVID, so it was done online. So 8 mentors were trained, and about 9 organizations benefited from this service. Over to you, Alex, for evidence.
Cool. You can move to the next slide as well. Thank you. So the mentorship program was kind of one of the flagships for RSH, and Ethiopia was the first hub to kind of push this out and pilot this as an approach. And from that, we learned a ton. So during the mentorship program, the first one, 100% of the organizations that completed that mentoring actually went on to improve their capacity within safeguarding. We measured that capacity using an OCA tool, which is still available on the website, and it assesses your capacity as an organization around safeguarding. So it's really effective. We saw this as one of the kind of most influential activities and most intense activities that we ran with organizations. And what we'd learned a lot was around how organizational culture shifts. So by looking at this mentoring program, we could see that greater change in those early stages was made around understanding risks and setting up policies around safeguarding. And then we saw how, and some of the challenges and barriers to shifting organizational culture more broadly. So looking at actual individuals' behaviors, and that takes longer. This informed a lot of the design of all of our work and allowed us to identify areas where additional tip sheets or resources may be needed. From the Ethiopia Hub mentoring program, lessons were learned and shared with both our Nigeria and South Sudan hubs, and then on to the MENA hub. So we were able to tweak this mentoring program and and continue to offer that in different countries to different organisations. Within Ethiopia, a second cohort of mentoring then took place based on the knowledge that we had, identifying an area such as investigation skills as a gap. And so what we were able to do is train a group of mentors within investigation so that it could support the wider sector as well. We saw that mentors that participated in this programme have gone on to either kind of shift their careers into safeguarding, or they continue to be champions of RSH. So this was one of our kind of most fruitful and impactful activities.
The second cohort, thank you, Alex. The second cohort, no, the previous slide, please. The second cohort also was designed based on the gap identified, because investigation is key. Unfortunately, we couldn't find adequate number of female mentors. Still, that's a gap. But after the graduation, as I mentioned earlier, nine individuals graduated from this one. And after the graduation, even a request came for an investigation, but the client or the person, the organization wanted a female mentor. So one of them were busy and the other took up the job. So one of the lessons is we need more female mentorship for mentors for investigation. Next slide, please. Yeah, the northern conflict also was one of the issues we dealt, especially the Tigray conflict affected like Amhara and the northern part of like Afar. So we couldn't target the Tigray civil society organization. We have like a lot of safeguarding issue during that time. So we just developed a specific resource for safeguarding in acute crisis or conflict, how to set up a conflict, a community-based complaint mechanism. So that was translated or prepared into Tigrinya. Since we didn't have an access to Tigray civil society organization, so our stakeholder or the PSA network, we also circulated that, and hotlines and how to set up a step-by-step guide also was provided for Tigray civil society organization during that time. Next, please. We also pioneering different contextualized products in addition to original or the materials developed by us. We also contextualize some of the material from like Nigeria and South Sudan and other countries. So for that we had a team of 3 individuals from disability and also from a person who knows the civil society organization very well, and also well-versed, experienced person on the safeguarding issues. So they contextualize the material, they change like the context and also the example to our context. We also develop a pocket guide, practitioner pocket guide, how to speak children with safeguarding, because through our engagement with civil society organization, we realize especially smaller civil society organization do not know how to speak about safeguarding with children. So that pocket guide was prepared in the 4 language, Amharic, Afan Oromo, Tigrinya, and Somali, and that also promoted at different places. We had also a podcast webinar series on sexual harassment developed in Amharic, and also through our organization working with people with disability, we identify a gap. We don't have any sign language material, so we adapted the Nigeria material, what is safeguarding animation, into sign language. So that was also appreciated by person with hearing impairments. Yes, please.
Thanks, Sosie. Yeah, so in the Ethiopia Hub was again one of the first to start contextualizing some of the products, and when they start putting their own products out, of those that the Ethiopia Hub produced, they've been downloaded 5,777 times, and that may have gone up now because that was the figure from November. But it shows you and gives you a sense of how many users are engaging with these products, and a bit of a sense of kind of the scale and scope of RSH's reach, which is really impressive. And on top of that, we've had multiple stories about how people are taking these products, whether they be the tip sheets or the tools, and they're using them practically in their work. And that's very commonly seen with some of the tools such as risk assessment tools, and it's also commonly mentioned around the pocket guide for child safeguarding. When that was pioneered and developed, there was a new approach to that, and lots of feedback was collected throughout the process of design. And at that stage, we heard from CSOs in the field that 88% of those sampled felt the pocket guide was useful. And further than that, we've now heard that about 95% of Ethiopia Hub users who responded to our survey felt that the products increased their knowledge and that they were relevant to their context. So one of the biggest lessons for us in RSH was understanding kind of how to start to contextualize resources, whether that be like the large global e-learning to the context of Ethiopia, or identifying specific gaps in individual contexts and developing products. The animation adaptation with sign language was the first of its kind for RSH, and we saw that in its first month it was viewed 84 times, and hopefully that will continue to grow. And it was responding again to a gap that we'd seen around safeguarding for groups such as persons with disabilities.
Thank you, Alix. We created a safeguarding community of practice. From our country assessment, we realized Telegram and also Facebook are highly used in Ethiopia, and also especially Telegram is good for connectivity. So we established two community of practice on Telegram. One is for investigators, so they can learn and also share experiences and challenges. So it's specifically for the investigators. And the other is managed and facilitated by assigned individuals. So about more than 80 members joined. That's open for everyone. So through that Telegram group, we just share information, and also by just identifying the priority items from the group. We also engage the group every 2 months. We change the topic and we assign a specific facilitator for that. Over to you, Alix.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sosie. So yeah, the communities of practice for the Ethiopia Hub, again, kind of really successful area of work. It was a key lesson for us as RSH. We started off at a global level looking at hosting large online communities of practice, and quite quickly realized maybe that's perhaps not our niche or where we should focus our time. And so the national hubs, the Ethiopia Hub included, started focusing on in-person kind of communities of practice. And some of those were linked to our mentoring program, and that peer exchange continued after that program closed between those mentors. But there were also other communities of practice that took kind of great focus, and we learned how to keep those going and maintain them through the use of facilitators. So there were 2 kind of communities of practice, 8 organizations, and overall 75% of the surveyed users felt that we were starting to create safe spaces for dialogue, which was one of the gaps that we identified as RSH right at the very beginning of our program. And this is hopefully something that can continue long after us. But that was, our gaze popped on screen, so I feel the time is running low, so I'll stop there, Sosie, and hand back to you.
Yeah. Next slide, please. We realized also, especially organization in the rural area were challenging to access our online hub. So we promote also face-to-face workshop, and through that, more than 200 civil society organizations outside Addis Ababa were reached, and also the organization for persons with disability training was facilitated face-to-face. Next slide, please. Yeah, we come with next slide. Yeah, now we are preparing for the first phase, end of first phase. So we understand the results. We did a number of surveys and also assessments during this time. Also, we are developing a sustainability strategy. We are consulting with different stakeholders around sustainability and transition who can take over the RSH resources and also the services. We are also collecting learning for other hubs, because the other hub also will phase out soon. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned earlier, we identify donors and also potential lead local civil society organization in order to continue the second phase, but that takes some time. So as we are doing that, next slide, please. You can visit the Ethiopia Hub website. You can download the resources for Ethiopia and also other hub in the library, because RSH will continue until mid-2023. You can also complete the e-learning course, which is available in English and Amharic, and you can attend a webinar hosted by other hub countries. You can also receive a global newsletter for latest news and also events across the other national hubs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sosena and Alix, for taking us through that journey. It's indeed great that, sharing with us the pioneering of NEB, National Expert Board, pioneering the online hub and experiences, the e-learning, pioneering the mentorship program, and how the other hubs have now learned and adapted, and even the contextualization of resources. Thank you so much. So at this point, I will call on our next panelist, Michael. But before Michael comes on, I want to still remind us to put on our questions using the Q&A function in the control panel that we'll see at the bottom of our screen. Thank you. Michael, please.
Thank you very much, Oge, for the invitation, and I appreciate also RSH for inviting me to share my testimony on the impact that RSH have made in Ethiopia civil society organization and in different sectors as well. I have been engaged in RSH Ethiopia since the start of the program in the country. At the time, I was working as a human resource business partner in Oxfam, and the time was very, very critical. As you may recall, sexual scandals have been reported with some international organizations, and the concern were everywhere. Some donors start demanding on the robust process on safeguarding to be in place, policy and procedures, but the resources was lacking in the sector. Even the word safeguarding was not widely used and newly introduced. In some child-focused organization, they used to apply child safeguarding, but safeguarding related to prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse was not widely introduced. And the resources and the awareness session and the introduction of safeguarding awareness to the civil society organization by the Resource and Support Hub has been welcomed by many civil society organizations, including international organizations. Even if international NGOs and organizations seem to be better equipped in terms of resources regarding safeguarding, the awareness and the understanding at the time was really scarce. So personally, as an HR business partner for Oxfam in Ethiopia, and also a safeguarding focal point and safeguarding lead for the country, at the time, I was privileged to engage and interact and benefit from all the resources produced by the Resource and Support Hub. I was also privileged to interact more closely with RSH and also with the national PSA network led by the UN agencies, and privileged to get various awareness sessions and trainings through the platform. And later I have joined the Resource Support Hub Board of Experts as a member, and that provides me a better visibility on the work of the Resource Support Hub. I can witness that from all the efforts made in the past couple of years by RSH, many civil society organizations have hugely benefited from all the resources and support provided by RSH. The e-learning have been attended by many. I have heard some witnesses from some civil society organizations that their staff members for the very first time be able to attend a safeguarding training through the e-learning platform. And they become a huge resource and impactful in influencing the policy and the HR practices within their civil society organization. The mentorship program have benefited many. The Ask on Expert program also benefited many civil society organizations. Personally, through my engagement with RSH, I supported one civil society organization through the Ask on the Expert support program to produce an safeguarding investigation protocol. I also participated with various webinars and in the first Amharic podcast produced by RSH. And I have heard and also given various witnesses from the attendees that they have really benefited from these platforms. I was working also as the president for the Ethiopian Human Resource Professional Association, SHRM, the Society of Human Resource Management in Ethiopia. And in collaboration with the Resource and Support Hub, we were able to promote safe recruitment and also shared experiences about safeguarding investigation to the HR network, and also on how to manage volunteers and creating a safe working environment for volunteers. And in collaboration with the CHS Alliance, we also conducted a webinar on misconduct disclosure scheme. And the last webinar has been attended by a huge number of HR practitioners, and best practices among the HR network have been shared. And this webinar has been conducted in collaboration with the Society of Human Resource Management in Ethiopia. And I have been also engaged as a promoter of inclusive and work, as well as promotion of disability inclusion in a workplace. Have been a board member for ECDD, Ethiopian Center for Disability and Development. Have a privilege to promote the work of RSH to the organization who promote disability inclusion in the workplace. So the animation adaptation of resources with sign language and other engagements of persons with disability is really impactful. And I can generally say that the past few years of engagement of RSH have been very, very impactful in the sector. And also safe in the HR sector in the country. When I heard and informed about the request, is it the right time? As mentioned in the past couple of years, past 2 years have been experiencing challenge through war, including, and I strongly recommend that the legacy of RSH and the good work that has been started to be continued. I can say that the journey has started, but we are not yet there. And some good organization who really believe in the mission and the work that has been commissioned by the Safeguarding Resource Support Hub need to be continued and inherited, and if resource allowed also, since the survivor other act has been started which may benefit the survivors and those people who have affected by sexual harassment during the past couple of years may benefit all the resources. Yeah, I appreciate and I celebrate the success of RSH in Ethiopia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael, for indeed sharing your experiences, working as a member of National Expert Board in Ethiopia, and also supporting some organizations in investigations through the Ask an Expert service. And yes, the work has indeed impacted organizations. Yeah, and we really appreciate the Ethiopian Hub and all of you. So thank you all our panelists. At this point, we will go for questions, and we have already some questions in the Q&A function. To also reiterate to please use the Q&A function for your questions and not the chat, please. Okay, so the first question is asking where they can find animated posters to be used as IEC material for safeguarding messages, and if it could be either in local or another language. Sosi, do you want to answer that, where they can get IEC materials?
Yeah, I will put on the charts in a minute, but you can find a lot of material in Amharic and also Somali, Afan Oromo, and Tigrinya for Ethiopia, and also in English for other countries. You can also find resources. So in our research, it's not only the material developed by us. For example, the PSA network IEC material. The IEC material of the PSA network also shared, and by asking permission from different organizations like Save the Children, we also posted this IEC material. So you can go to the resource hub. I will put in a minute the link, then you can find that the resources.
Thank you very much, Sosi. We have another question for Michael. Michael, the question is that you have spoken very positively about the RSH and activities, which is great to hear. So he's saying, are there any aspects that you think RSH could have done better, or any safeguarding gaps that still need to be addressed in Ethiopia?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a very good question. Yes, RSH have impacted a lot and contribute hugely to civil society organizations, and also making awareness to the general public through the platforms who are able to access. But I can say that due to the limitation of capacity, I can say, because I have been part of the board of experts as well, the coverage was limited, I can say. Ethiopia has more than 100 million people and more than 3,000 civil society organizations. But you have heard the statistics presented by Alix and also by Sosena, how many organizations that RSH able to reach, and also the coverage in the country. Ethiopia, a multicultural country where more than 80 languages spoken and across the country, but RSH is able to cover only few regions in the country, and a limited number of organizations comparing with the total number of civil societies in the country. But I also witnessed that through some civil society organization like KIOT, who in turn able to train other more than 200 civil society organization, the coverage and the number can be more than it is reported. But I can say that the number of translation into different languages and also the number of coverage could be enhanced if resource and capacity allowed. I think this is what I can say. But Sosena could supplement. Thank you very much.
I agree, Michael, your feedback, but given the time we have, 3 years is very limited, and also it's an online hub. So what we could is to deliver or to provide different resources, which is tailored for local civil society organization, and also our online training material or learning material can be also a resource after even RSH Live. Otherwise, as a small program, we cannot reach everyone. We are complementing the efforts. That's why we need also to localize the existing resources.
Thank you, Sosena, for sharing that. I think there's another question. I'll direct this to Alix. This person wants to know, apart from the newsletters that are available, are there any other strategy designs to follow through the safeguarding activities to evaluate the continuity of the RSH program?
Thank you, Oge. Yeah, good question. So I think I can answer the second part on the evaluation of continued legacy, and then Sosena, in terms of the strategy to follow on for the safeguarding activities and how that will work for Ethiopia Hub. Maybe that's something you can cover. In terms of evaluating the continuity of the legacy, we looked at some of the stories of change and behaviour change already that's taken place when we were at the live event in Ethiopia. And it was brilliant to see kind of how some of these tools have translated into real life and are being applied and being used, and how people have gone on to completely shift roles and jobs, right, based on the knowledge that they learned in their mentoring program. But beyond that, we are planning kind of a follow-on study in the next kind of 6 months or so to check back in with some of the key CSOs that interacted with RSH to understand whether or not some of that kind of that continued behavior is continuing to change and shift, and some of whether there's an ongoing contribution. Because of the way that RSH works, it is difficult to determine the contribution that we're making to a wider sector, given that we are online and we don't often know a lot of the people that are using our products. But so we're going to be using qualitative methods to try and determine kind of stories of change and gather information in terms of what those in Ethiopia and in this sector believe our contribution has been. So yeah, in 6 months' time, there will be a follow-up on that. And then Sosi, I hand to you in terms of beyond kind of linking to the global newsletter. What are the strategies to follow those safeguarding activities for Ethiopia to continue?
Yeah, we have quality assured experts, so you can find also that on the website. So RSH will not cover that cost, but if you want to have a safeguarding expert, we are also trying quality assured experts to put their contacts and also area of expertise. But for further getting resources, again, I advise you to sign up for the global newsletter. So you can find also resources, and also our central team still are operational until May 2023. So all this will be continue to our support, but we are trying also to get donor and also local civil society organization who is taking over the second phase of RSH.
Thank you, Sosi. While I still have you, there is a question around the main challenges during the journey and how to also get how the partnership has been with smaller NGOs apart from INGOs.
Yeah, even if our resources are available for international organization and bigger civil society organization, our main focus is local civil society organization, what we call them less resources civil society organization. There was a specific support, so ask an expert. So we were providing 3 days free service for this organization. So they benefited by getting training, face-to-face training from us, and also most of them asked us to review their policy and also to develop their policy. So we assigned, and also we paid for consultants in order to support this organization. In terms of challenge, as Michael said, or as one of our participants asked, we couldn't reach more organization, and especially at the beginning, it took us a lot of time to promote for the wider civil society organization. Fortunately, we were working with program like CSSP, ESAP. So these were our network to reach the civil society organization. But we realized, especially the rural civil society organization or outside Addis Ababa, where we didn't reach that much. So we tried to compensate that. The other thing is even civil society organization have a resource limitation in order to strengthen their civil society practice and also system. And also there is a lack of leadership commitment. So there are a range of problems, but we try to address some of the issues given the capacity and the resource we have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can take just one more question. There is a question here around certification of trainings. Okay, this person was saying that he was denied a certificate by one of RSH training partner, and even though the training was very useful, but was denied that. So more information needs to be provided about certification. And then another one, just to add on to that, is a question around the accessibility for local resources in local languages, and if these resources will still continue to be online even with the end of Ethiopian Hub.
Yes, it will be available. Even the Ethiopia Hub is closing the first phase, but until May 2024, it will be accessible.
Thank you very much. I think that is all we have time for today. Thank you, our panelists, for your informative presentations, and to all of you for your engaging and challenging questions. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you again for our panelists. The questions that have not been answered will be shared back as we share the recording of this webinar. So we'll be sharing the webinar recording and slides to you shortly, as well as any related resources and unanswered questions from the Q&A session. If you want to hear more about future RSH webinars, please subscribe to our newsletter. Thank you and hope to connect with you again soon.